Hey, everybody. This is Philip Pantana, and I got Joe White with me. This is inside the Perimeter Roof and Renovate, and we are excited about today's podcast. It is going to be slay, if you know what I mean. They told me not to use Gen Z words, but it's happening. So I don't
stop them.
Yeah. Joe, what do you think?
I'm excited to see how this goes. I think it will make for one memorable episode.
Absolutely.
No cap.
Bet. Yeah, we talked about the vibe check for, this talk today, and we decided we're going to come up with a hodgepodge of things and talk about all things roofing and exteriors, and we've got some really good stuff to chat through.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the details, the stuff you might miss, what you want to look for, and everything in between.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So where do we start?
At the top.
At the top, brother.
Yep, right at the roof.
Right at the roof.
So
roof starts first, right?
Every time.
Right. Because if we put something else on and the roof goes later, what happens?
Oh, you're going to fail.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
No one wants new siding and then your roof done.
Right, exactly.
New siding's now old siding.
So, okay. We did this before. We made this mistake, right? We put on new gutters and then we replaced the roof. And then what happened? Like the new roof messed up the new gutters. And so we learned hey, roof goes first, then everything else.
Once you think about it, it makes a lot of sense.
It makes a lot of sense, right?
Yep.
And the roof, since we're talking about roofing here, is the most intrusive and most difficult home remodeling renovation that you can do.
Yep.
Right. And why is that? Because it's more dangerous.
Yep.
You got 10,000 nails coming off, 10,000 nails going on.
Minimum.
Right. It's a construction zone. You got materials that could potentially fly off and hit somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So you got to hire somebody who knows what they're doing to try to, mitigate some of that liability and make it as smooth as possible.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of people think it's just slapping some new shingles up there.
Yeah.
Which in a way it is, but there's a lot more that goes into that.
Right.
It's prepping it. It's knowing if you have the right guys to be able to install it. The details when you run into those, how to tackle them, how to properly install them.
Yeah.
And then, once it's up, you got to clean up. That's another big one. You don't want to walk away with a trashy looking site. That's how,
people get hurt or.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If you got dogs, you don't want them running around nails in the yard.
Yeah.
So we try and take every step possible to prevent all of those.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So as we are getting ready to replace a roof, what's the first thing that we should do, right? We need to walk around the home.
Yeah.
Okay, what could possibly get damaged when we start tearing off all these old shingles or taking off this metal?
Yeah, we want to identify every possible area that could be damaged.
So what are some of the things that are most susceptible to damage if we're not protecting?
Most homes have some sort of porch or deck. That's probably number one in my mind. Especially if it's a back porch, if it's wood, composite, whatever. Second thing, HVAC units, oil tanks. I've seen propane tanks outside, generators, things that are close to the house typically, right? Right on the wall. That's a really high area for nails to fall, things to fall off.
What about I know we've had issues with where you've got a hipped roof, maybe a 2-story, and you've got a long way for that material to drop. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that material can actually fly back and hit the house. And so oftentimes what we'll do is we'll hang tarps over those really high spots so that when we're throwing materials off into the dumpster or the trailers, that we're not going to have any blowback and damage the property.
Yeah. What happens is, those shingles are coming off in, 2-foot pieces, 3-foot pieces, and you throw it over, it catches the wind, or it just flips just right. It comes right back at the house.
Yeah.
Most homes, a lot of homes in our area are brick. And so if it happens, it's not that big of a deal because nothing gets damaged.
Yeah.
But there's all the other homes are vinyl siding, and that stuff shows up like that. So that's a big thing we try to identify as those high likelihood areas where, if I'm being careless, something could go wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we don't want to be a mid company,
No cap. We want to be the, I don't know.
We want to hit different.
That's right. Are you keeping track of this?
That's what it's all about. The goal is to, I want a W for this one. A big W.
Big W.
Right?
Mm-hmm. 5-star W.
Absolutely. And don't be a gatekeeper. All right.
That's why we're doing this. That's why we're sharing everything. We're not holding anything back.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you're listening to this and you've been on your phone way too long, you should probably go out and touch some grass. Like just
I think we need to
disconnect and. All right. That's cool.
Let's pull back a little.
All right. All right. Oh, come on, man.
You have the list. I don't.
You're gatekeeping me. All right. So let's talk about safety, right?
Yeah.
So safety is a big deal on roofing.
The number one thing.
Right. So we don't want people to fall and get hurt. Joe, have you ever fallen?
Thankfully, I haven't. I've slid.
You've slid.
I've slid. That's
but you caught yourself.
Yeah, I slowed down enough to stop sliding.
And this was just on an inspection?
This was on an inspection. I probably shouldn't have gotten on the roof. It was, I think, a 812 or 712, something like that.
Okay.
So walkable, but the condition of the roof was poor. It was an old, 20, 30-year-old roof.
It was a shingles, right?
Shingles, a lot of granular loss. And for those that don't know what that means, it basically means at the end of a roof's life, it starts to lose those little granules on it. So when you go to walk on it, it's like walking on marbles. Little, Lego. I don't know if Lego is the right example, but something where you can slip very easily.
Yeah.
And when you're on a pitch, it's just a disaster. So slipped, started sliding, went back down to the ladder, got off.
So obviously homeowners don't want us to get hurt too, right? They're concerned about safety. Mm-hmm. And so that's one of the reasons why we're talking about safety, so that people understand maybe kind of from our perspective what we're trying to why we're trying to be safe and kind of what the guidelines are. So there's different rules between inspection and actual installation.
Correct.
Right. So for an inspection, we don't have to tie off, correct?
No.
Right. But we do obviously need to make sure that our gutters are at least 3 feet above the gutter line.
Yeah. So the rungs on the ladder are a foot apart. And so once you have 3 above it, you're
yeah. And ideally, we want to tie that ladder off if we can, mm-hmm. right, at the top. And sometimes, you get to the, if there's gutter guards, it's more difficult. But if we're up there, we want to try to tie off onto a gutter hanger, so that our ladder doesn't blow over if there's high winds, or maybe when we're stepping up on the roof, we don't, apply. Yeah, it could move to the left or the right, things like that. Yeah. Obviously, that liability gets higher the taller the ladder is.
Absolutely. A good bungee cord sometimes will work. You wrap it around and then stretch it. They also have some specialized hook and latches that you can put onto gutters that I've seen. But most of the time, a bungee cord does the trick.
Yeah.
The biggest thing is, when I first joined we did a whole training on this, but the highest chance for you to fall is not on the roof. It's not on the ladder. It's when you're switching between the two.
Yeah.
Getting on the roof or off the roof.
Exactly. Yeah. So that actually reminds me of a story. So I've actually fallen twice.
Oh.
Okay. And the first time I fell was before I got into roofing. I was painting a home with my dad, and I was on like a 4-foot ladder, and we had actually rented a bucket truck, and I was spraying the home, and I was literally 99% done. Okay. And there was this one section I couldn't use the bucket truck on because of the landscaping. So I got into the landscaping bed and stood up on the ladder, and I'm spraying, and it just shot out from under me. And I landed on my arm, and it broke 3 ribs, and I punctured a lung.
Oh my gosh.
And I only fell like 3 feet. Was
it an A-frame ladder?
It was an A-frame ladder. Yeah.
Those things are notorious.
And it felt like I couldn't breathe for 5 minutes. Like it was bad. And I couldn't yell either. My dad was on the other side, and so he didn't know what was going on. And I was like, and just like, it seemed like it would just never end. And I'd never punctured a lung before. So here's the funny story. Okay. So 5 minutes later, maybe even 10, I probably laid on the ground for, it could have been up to 15 minutes. It was a long time. And I was like, I don't even know if I'm getting up from here. So I finally get up. I go get into my truck, and I'm like, yeah, Dad, I got to go. So I get in my truck, and I'm driving home, and I call my wife. Of course, it's the first person you call is your wife.
Yep.
And I'm like, hey, so I got hurt, and I'm headed to, I think I'm going to go to, one of the urgent cares. And she's like, oh, come on, get over it. You're fine, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, I really think I hurt myself, and she's giving me a hard time because, I guess I don't think it's true, but apparently some men cry wolf. I don't know. We're just looking for attention. Anyway.
No way.
Yeah, it's probably not a real thing.
No.
Anyway, so I go to urgent care, And I call my sister-in-law, who's a nurse, and then I call my buddy, who's a doctor here in town, and I'm telling him what's going on. And he's like, yeah, you should probably just don't go to urgent care. Just come to the hospital. And so I'm like, okay. So at that point, I felt pretty good, and my sister-in-law was like, well, if you broke ribs, you'd probably be in more pain. And I was like, okay, and so I leave urgent care and I'm on my way home, and then all of a sudden the pain kicks in at like a 10 or an 11, if that exists, right? Like it felt like somebody was stabbing me in the back with a knife. And I started yelling at the top of my lungs. And I get home and I'm still yelling. My wife thinks I've gone mad. Okay. I yelled the entire way to the hospital. Like the pain would not go away. It was like every muscle in near my shoulder blade was like knotted up. So I broke 3 ribs and punctured a lung, and I was in the hospital for like 3 days.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was bad. 3 feet. I fell 3 feet.
3 feet, a foot of rib.
Right. And so, wow, never made that connection. Okay. So, so if you fall 10 ribs, right? Like, so again, I think the point of this story is it's super important that we're safe.
Yes, absolutely.
And so when we're on a roof, we, if we're installing a roof, we got to harness up. We got to make sure that we're, setting our ladders appropriately. So here's what's crazy about safety. Most people think being on a roof is more dangerous than actually being on a ladder, but most incidents happen on a ladder, not on a roof.
Correct.
So they're not checking to make sure that they're on level ground. They don't have a good footing on their ladder.
Mm-hmm. Ladder's not pitched away from the roof the correct amount. It's too steep.
Yeah, right. Yep. Exactly. There's an actual way to verify if your ladder is pitched at the right angle so that you are more safe.
Yep.
And so, that actually happened to me. So since I started at Perimeter, I actually fell one time. It was early morning. It was on a deck that was mildewed and I didn't recognize it. And I set my ladder up correctly. But when I was coming back off the roof, my ladder slipped out. And what's cool is when I rolled off the ladder, I landed directly on the homeowner's gutter, or on their grill.
Yeah.
Okay, I landed on their grill. My giat went directly into the grill. And it was awesome because that grill acted like an accordion. It like boom, 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 and it broke my fall. And that grill saved my life basically. And what's crazy is the homeowner was out. She was a widow and her husband had recently passed, maybe a year or so. And she was yelling the entire time all this was happening, and her dog was barking like crazy. And I remember I laid there for a minute, and my first words out of my mouth were, "Do you have any ibuprofen?" Because I knew I was going to be hurting, and I was like, I need to get something in me right away. And I was like, sorry about the grill. She's like, oh, don't worry about it. We were going to get rid of that. I don't use it. Well, I was able to get up, and I got back up on the roof. I replaced my ladder. I fixed the problem, and then I just said, can we call it even for the grill? And she said yes, and that was it.
What a great story.
Yeah. And so, I think for me, having those experiences, I know how important it is to be safe.
You've gotten lucky.
I've been very fortunate.
Yeah.
Angels all around.
Amen. Yeah. A couple of the biggest things that we get pointed out based on those stories and others that we hear is when you're getting off that ladder, that foot, when you're transitioning, we're on the ladder and you're getting on the roof right on the eave. Your foot never goes on the rung above the gutter.
Yes.
Because that turns it into a what are those called?
Like a seesaw.
Seesaw. Thank you.
Yeah.
And if you put all your weight above it, it's a pivot point. It'll just come right up.
It definitely can. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's one of the big no-nos when getting on.
Yeah. And a lot of guys don't think about this, but if you're putting your ladder on a deck, okay, especially if it's like a composite deck, composite decks are more slick than just your traditional pre-treated lumber. So if you're putting it on a deck and if it's running in the same direction or parallel with the gaps in the boards, you can actually take like a wedge and wedge your ladder against that wedge in the crack of the deck to make sure that you have something that it's going to hold the ladder so it doesn't slip out from under you.
I've used like a flat bar. I've used like a spackle scraper.
Exactly. Just anything to make sure that, I've even seen guys take, in just, you can take a drill and a screw and just literally screw the screw into, if the deck is old and it's, safety is more important than the deck.
Yeah.
Obviously we don't make a practice of that, but I have done that on older decks just to be safe because there was no other way to get up and be safe.
Yeah. And then, kind of transitioning to when we're installing a roof and some safety points is one thing I see a lot of guys do is they'll take their ladders, they'll set it up properly, but just to be as a preventative measure, they'll put actually a couple bundle of shingles at the very bottom.
Oh yeah. That's a great idea
because there's so much weight in those shingles.
I like that way better than a screw.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why.
Thank you, man.
Got you.
You just saved me.
Yep. But then when you're installing, it's the same principles for all of the ways we just talked about. But one thing that we don't have to do during inspections, but during installations is tying off. And that's essentially you get a guy, he goes up to the ridge or a secure point where you can nail down a harness anchor point, and it goes on the roof deck. It's got a big loop on it. And then you can tie or not tie, but it's like, what is it? It's a big hook. You hook it on, and then that goes to your harness. That basically keeps you from falling off. That's a very oversimplification.
Are you talking about the goat?
No, I'm talking about when you're installing, setting up the anchor point on the roof, and then harnessing into it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. For an installation.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's more of a permanent anchor point.
Yep.
Where the guys are going to be screwing into the lumber of the roof, and they're going to tie off on that.
Yeah, because you got to think there's also, once you've torn it off, it's not just clean deck. It's you got bundles of shingles, tools, equipment, air hoses.
Yep.
There's a lot of things that you can trip on a roof.
I know there was a guy, probably this was about 7 or 8 years ago. We had an installer. They were installing a new roof, and they were being very safe. They were following all the protocol, and he had to unhook to get to another anchor point, and he fell. Because he was being safe, but he didn't have enough slack to get to the other anchor point.
So he took that risk.
Well, apparently, yeah. I wasn't there, but, I had to investigate what happened. And obviously we're always, sometimes we learn from our mistakes, and obviously some of those things can be fatal. And thankfully he was okay, but he got hurt for sure.
Yeah. I wish I had the numbers on it, but it's, we get a report every year. It's X amount. This is how many, roofers or installers got injured or worse.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's a serious thing. It's not something to joke around about. And, it's the biggest thing about our jobs.
And as a company, first and foremost, it's about being safe, but then it's also, when homeowners are looking to hire a contractor, they want to make sure that they have the appropriate licenses and insurance.
Yep.
And of course we have all those things, and we want to make sure that we're protecting us and protecting the homeowner when we do the job.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's one of the biggest things too during a presentation with a homeowner is, going over what the true issues are, finding those, addressing those, offering the correct solutions, but then backing that up with, hey, this is why we know the right things, because we're licensed, we're insured, we're trained.
Yeah.
All fits together.
Yeah. And I know as a company, we put together a policy in place that every employee signs that we have to read and go over. And it's basically a ladder safety protocol, do's and don'ts, things like that.
Yep.
And so, yeah, absolutely. And so it's important that if you're a construction company out there and listening to this and getting pointers from us, make sure that, if it ain't in writing, it don't exist. That's what I always say. So get it in writing, get your employees to sign it, make sure that you're taking the time to train them. A lot of people end up doing a poor job or getting hurt because they just didn't have the proper training. Nobody took the time to give them the instruction.
Yeah.
And so that's important.
Yeah. The small amount of time investment can pay off.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we talked a little bit about doing inspections and how that's different than your installations.
Yeah.
What are you looking for during an inspection? A homeowner calls you. They don't know how old the roof is. They don't know how much life they have left in it.
Yeah.
What does that look like for you?
You mean, how am I determining how old the roof might be?
Yeah, how old it is. What are the issues, the actual issues that might be there, and how do you resolve them?
So, well, let's talk about the first thing. Like, how do I give a professional opinion of how old the roof is? Well, first of all, I need to identify what type of roof it is, right? There's a couple of different types of asphalt shingle roofs. You've got your 3-tab, which is the older version of shingles. People don't really put those on much anymore. And then you have the architectural or laminate shingles. And essentially the difference between those two is one is a single ply and one is a double ply, meaning one is twice as thick as the other.
Yep.
And so naturally you're going to get twice the life out of it. And the manufacturers honor or double the warranty for the double laminated architectural shingle.
Yep.
So we're always recommending to homeowners, hey, if you got a 3-tab, we should switch to architectural. The other big advantage is with a 3-tab, they essentially, the way they're designed is they're pretty vulnerable to high wind, more so than architectural. So if you have a 3-tab, we see a lot of wind damage on 3-tab asphalt shingle roofs.
Yeah. Vastly more than architectural.
Oh, vastly more, right? So 3-tabs are actually more difficult to install because you have to have cleaner, straighter lines. It just requires a lot more, just a lot more measurements and things as you're installing it. You have to have a lot more skill to make sure all those, because you can just see the imperfections so much easier if you don't have the straight lines.
Yeah, if you have a bow or some sort of deflection in the roof, that translates to when you're marking your lines.
Yeah.
Even if you mark them straight from right to left, if it bows out, your line won't be straight. And you can see that clear as day from the ground.
Yeah. Basically, with a 3-tab, you can actually see more of the framing imperfections on the roof.
Yep.
Whereas an architectural will help hide some of that.
Yeah. And the reason is because architectural has dimension.
Yeah, exactly.
They get called dimensional shingles sometimes.
Yeah, that dimension basically hides those imperfections.
Yeah.
Which is another benefit of using it. So when I'm up on the roof, if it's a 3-tab, that warranty is either going to be a 20 or 25-year warranty. So a lot of times, I'll ask the homeowner first, like, hey, do you know how old the roof is? Do you know when the home was built? How long have you lived here? So that helps me, but I can also, look up online to determine the age of the home. Because a lot of times I'm also looking to see if there's multiple layers of shingles, right? So there's just clues that I'm looking for.
Yeah.
And then of course, if it's an architectural shingle, the 3-tab and the architectural have pretty much the same materials. They're built with the same stuff.
Yep.
Right. Fiberglass, matting, tar, and granules. Yep. Right. And then they throw in some metal in there. Which helps prevent oxidation and staining on the shingle.
Zinc, some other things and the technology behind that's really interesting. Won't get into it, but basically it's a time release on most granules. So over the time, when you look at an old roof, you might see those streaks, moss growth, those granules that have the metals in it. Yeah. Help prevent that.
Yeah, and the cool thing about GAF, which we install that system. And our Master Elite installers for them, they offer a 25-year stain and streak fighting warranty in their shingles.
Yeah.
So, especially if you live in a home where you have a lot of tree cover or a lot of shade, you end up getting a lot more staining more quickly. So you want to be thinking about or asking which is the best shingle brand. GF is going to give you the longest warranty.
Yeah, and every new roof is going to look new when you first put it on.
Oh yeah.
But the question is in however long time you're going to be there, do you want it to still look new?
Yeah.
That's where GAF has a great advantage, I think, over the market compared to other shingles.
Yeah. And to that point, like we were talking about, how do I determine how old a roof is? So, the cool thing about the architectural shingles is the manufacturer's giving what's called a limited lifetime. The phrase has been coined a 50-year shingle.
Yep.
Okay. So the question is, will it really last 50 years? Well, it depends on several factors, right? It depends on, was it installed correctly? What kind of ventilation does the attic have?
Big one.
Right? Because if you don't have proper ventilation in the attic, the roof can't breathe. And so you get all this hot trapped air in the attic, and it causes basically the shingles to bake from the inside out. Yep. And it causes premature deterioration.
Yep. That's what we see a lot of shingles from the early 2000s. Yeah. Architectural shingles, new homes that were built with them said, hey, yeah, this will last you 40 years. And, 2020, 2025 came around and they look like they've been up there for 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
It's just poor ventilation.
Absolutely.
Someone told me this. It's basically if you had the sun on both sides of the shingles.
Yeah.
You had so much heat that's just eating it alive.
Yeah. Yeah. So your attic, if it's 90 degrees outside,
temperature says it's 90.
It's going to be like 130 in your attic. Okay. It's always going to be way hotter in the attic. Like if you don't own a gym membership or don't go to the gym and you want a sauna, just go sit in your attic because you will sweat like crazy. It's super hot up there in the summer.
Yeah.
And so if you just sit in your attic for 5 minutes in the summertime, I challenge every homeowner to do this. Okay. Go sit in your attic for 5 minutes in the heat of the summer and you'll see how hot it gets in your attic. That's what your roof is experiencing 24/7 in the summer.
Yeah.
So
during the summertime, when we're doing inspections, we really like to get in the attic because that can tell a different side of the story. It is insane the difference with properly ventilated attics and poorly ventilated attics. I mean, it can be 20, 30 degrees sometimes.
Yeah.
And most homeowners are concerned when it's hotter than the inside their house, when that's normal because you have air conditioned interior with insulation. Absolutely normal for it to be warmer up there. It's when it's excessive. That's where the issues come in.
Yeah.
Couple key points if you want to try and prevent that is one, get a properly ventilated system. Find us. We'll tell you exactly what you need.
Yeah. If you're in the roofing business, you got to be in the ventilation business too, right?
It's hand in hand. You can't put on a roof without ventilation. Otherwise you're not doing.
And and what's crazy is a lot of other roofers, because when we go and compete against some folks, the homeowners are saying, well, hey, they're recommending this. And we're saying, that's not the right, you're going to actually circumvent the ventilation by doing that because you have too many ventilation pieces on your roof, and you've got to have what's called negative pressure in the attic.
And there's two parts to ventilation. So if we break that down, it's not just a fan. All right. Like a lot of homes have power fans. That's great. It's an intake and exhaust. So you need to have air coming in and air going out.
Yeah.
When you don't have one of those, it's a 2-part system. If you don't have one, it's not working.
Yeah.
Now, when you have both, that's a good start, but you got to make sure, like you said, there's negative pressure and there's the proper amount of airflow. Most common roofing ventilation system we see is probably ridge vent. It's most popular, I would say.
Right. So what's that? That's your outtake, right?
That's your exhaust. It goes on the ridge of your roof. The intake can look like a couple things. It can be vented soffits, right?
Which would be the most optimal, right?
Most optimal. I mean, it's not necessarily the best. There's not one better than everything else. It's as long as the equation makes sense and you have proper intake and exhaust.
Okay.
So there's other products like eave intake. It goes right along underneath the shingles along the eave.
Okay.
And then you have different systems like an active system. That's what we call anything with a fan. So it's actively being pulled or pushed. Yeah. Gable end vents, power attic fans, things like that.
Anything that's got a motor.
Yeah. And I could spend an hour here talking about ventilation.
Basically we know what we're talking about. Right? Like we know, and
every house is different.
Yeah, absolutely.
Unless you live with a home in a neighborhood where there's a bunch of houses that look the same, more than likely every house needs a different system.
Yeah. So ventilation's important, right? Like if you don't have proper ventilation, you're going to have premature deterioration of your system, of the shingle. So again, I'm looking at all these factors when I'm trying to determine, how old is the roof, and why is the roof look as old as it is? If they say they only installed it 20 years ago, right? Mm-hmm. So when you install a shingle roof, what ends up happening is you lose about 15 to 20% of the granule loss. You have this initial loss, right? As the roof is beginning to set up in the weather, right? From expansion and contraction, anything that isn't, it's just basically your loss on the roof. And so you're going to see those granules fall down into the gutter.
And that's normal.
That's very normal, right? But then the shingle basically has its lifespan where it's going to run however long, depending on some of the factors we talk about. And then at the end of the cycle of the lifespan, you're going to have another large granule loss. Mm-hmm. And that's when the majority of the granules become loose. As you were saying, when we get up on the roof, if you're walking on marbles up there, you know that the shingle's at the end of the life. Yep. And so, when you do this enough, you spot it, you see it, and then you're able to give. And that's why we say we're giving a professional opinion. It is an opinion, but it is based on a lot of different factors.
Yeah, we take the facts that we can know to base our decision or opinion on that. And sometimes it's only a limited amount of factors. Sometimes we have more information, sometimes we have less. Yeah. But as a service to homeowners, that's what we want to provide is
Absolutely.
clarity.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, one other thing to point out is the fact that, the more experience you have in construction in general, it helps when you're looking at a roofing system, because framing, right? It's kind of like when you're drywalling, drywallers, their drywall is only going to look as good as the framing. You can hide some things, but if the framing's not plumb or the framing in a home isn't done correctly, the drywall is not going to hide everything.
You see the waves and
right. And so it's like with roofing. Like if the framing of your home is uneven and it's wavy and there's issues at the gutter and the fascia board and all those things, it becomes a framing issue, not necessarily a roofing issue. And so, being able to spot some of those things on the front, and you can bring that, those things to the attention of the homeowner to try to have those conversations. Now, sometimes we miss those things because sometimes we don't see them until we get into ripping off the roof. And then we realize, oh, there's another problem here.
Yeah.
And so obviously we want to bring those issues to the homeowner so we can provide a solution to them.
Yeah. But letting them know up front is the biggest value I think we can provide to homeowners is giving them the honest truth, whether that's good or bad news.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, man, we've been talking away here. How much time did we go by? Where are we at? Woody?
Can you do
How much?
that again?
31.
We're at 31.
Sorry, 31.
Dang, man.
31.
We just killed it.
that.
We crushed it. We crushed that. All right.
We got a lot more to talk about too. We'll have to do this.
Well, we're going to be back again.
Yeah.
I think today is our makeup session because we missed last month because of the weather, all the crazy storms we had, but we're going to have another one coming up in 2 or 3 weeks this month. So we're excited to jump back on. I think we'll continue this conversation because there was so much more we want to talk about.
Do we know who our special guest is going to be?
So the plan is to have Zach and Michael.
Ooh.
Okay. And they're a lot of fun. And so it's going to be a crazy rowdy show if they come, if they're able to make it. If not, Joe and I will definitely be here.
Yeah. Keep talking roofing.
And so I think next session I'd like to talk about, I think the plan is to talk about the 4 or 5 most common causes of a roof leak.
Yeah.
And how we're able to really tackle repair, because that's what Zach and Michael do. Yep. They're repair specialists.
They are the experts on this.
Absolutely.
Great.
Well, thanks for tuning in. We are so glad that you got to hear all about roofing stuff today, and that's what we're here for.
Got to hear us yap.
Yeah.
There's one.
I love it. Love it, bro. So good. Yeah. And for those of you who are also learning how to talk Gen Z, just keep dialing in. Probably won't be every session, but we're growing in that and we're getting better at it, and we're going to call ourselves professionals soon. So even at our age, you can teach an old dog new tricks.
I'm not that old.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I'm like your dad, basically.
It could be. Yeah.
It could be.
Yeah.
I'm not your dad.
No, I'm
almost as old as your dad could be. Right. So we won't say how old Joe is because then you'll figure that out.
I'm younger than Philip.
Yes.
If that wasn't clear.
This is really going downhill quick. So before we say anything else, for all of you on the outside, this is Inside the Perimeter Roof and Renovate. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.